Happy Thursday, guys. And Merry Christmas to those that celebrate it. I know we're just excuse me.
Hi.
Hello.
See if I can fix my camera. Hello. Normally you don't see my ugly ducks up there, but this is what happens when I have to be on my phone.
You can't see them anyway. Not really.
Hello. It's nice to officially meet you.
I know, I'm so excited. So we'll get started. Welcome to Let's Go Live. I'm Gigi Meyer, and I have with me YA fiction author Dasha Wallace. Welcome, Dasha. First, that's a great name. Love it.
Thank you. It's pronounced Dasha, but don't worry, everybody has always called me Dasha before, but it's
Dasha,
pronounced.
I'm so sorry, but that is beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, does it mean anything in particular?
My older sister thought it sounded pretty, and my mom was pregnant with me at the time, so and so she named me Daisha. She thought it was a pretty name, and by kid number 8, she was running out of names.
There's eight
So
children?
9.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
number 8. I'm number 8.
So your holidays are loud and noisy, yes?
Yes, they're very fun though. Very, very fun.
I thought I had a large family. I'm one of 4 girls. There was 5 of us, but one has passed pretty early on. And so people are always like, well, that's a big family, but you got to speak.
Yeah, no, I have about 300 cousins on one side of my family and like 100 on the other. And that's not even including my husband's family.
Do you guys go on those reunions and then you wear those matching shirts like to Disney and
We don't go to Disney. We generally do like camping or outdoors. Like one year we did like whitewater rafting
ooh,
and we would actually rent a house and then we would stay at the house and do like this coming year we're going to Bear Lake. And just heading out to the lake and having fun with all my siblings and all of their many
where
kids.
is Bear Lake located?
It is
What's
in 2 states. I think it's Utah and Colorado. It
okay?
could be Utah and Idaho. I get very confused. I've been a little bit busy and my brain, pregnancy brain is a thing. And so we'll see how next year goes.
Well, congratulations on the baby. I hope the pregnancy is
Thank
going
you.
smoothly, really well. Everybody's happy and healthy.
Yes, so far everything's going really well.
Oh, that's a blessing for sure.
I don't want another toilet baby. My first one was born in the toilet, 29 weeks. Joyous.
Oh my, and so early.
Very, very early. He's doing fabulous. He's 7 now.
Okay,
You might see him in some of my posts, but
good.
he's amazing. So
Yeah, those preemies, I had 2 preemies myself. And so, yeah, one is 6'1" at 15, and the other one is 5'9" at 17. So they caught up for it.
they make up for it in
They
the end.
do. Well, your mom and sister are right. Daisha is a beautiful name.
Thank you.
So tell me about your author journey. I saw the Fan Society, and let me tell you, those covers are stunning.
Yes, my cover artist did a fantastic job. My journey, I was a avid reader when I was younger, as probably as most authors. But we had moved to a different state, and so my mom forced me to hang out with somebody's like daughter from her book club. And we found out we both loved books, and she's like, "Hey, I'm writing a story. Can you help me get ideas?" I'm like, "I can come up with ideas." And then I started writing in high school. And then like my senior year of high school, I had to be there like an hour early I don't remember why. I think some of my other siblings had like school or work other places, so I had to be there an hour early. And so I spent that hour writing novels and writing a book. I did complete that book, and no, it will never see the light of day. Uh,
Okay, because I was going to
Ever.
ask, we do have
It will not see
authors.
the
We have authors that have written books in high school or in college, and then they pick them back up, dust them off, rewrite, edit, and those are what they publish first.
It could be. I didn't. I still have it though. It is saved on my computer. But no, I always wanted to be an author at that point. And so I actually started going to school for creative writing.
Ooh.
And basically for the creative writing class, you had to basically do the premise of a story. And so I had another story idea, and that together that turned out to be my first book, which was Isabella and the Beast.
Okay, so
So,
that was written in college?
um, yes. So basically, um, the year before, so 2021, January, my book was picked up by Covenant Books,
Ooh,
which
congratulations.
is, thank you. It's a hybrid company but they obviously still have to accept your book and see if it fits within their guidelines and things like that. And so they accepted it, and then I'm like, oh, I'm an author now.
Like,
And I hate it.
I'm
And I hate it when, books you have to, because that book took me 7 years to write. That was 7 years to get that book written
the burnt
and
that
like sent
baby.
to a publisher.
Yeah.
So, but I sent it, I'm like, oh shoot, I'm an author now. But that means I need to get books out a whole lot sooner than 7 years because I don't like waiting 7 years for a book, and I'm not going to put my readers through that. So I started writing the Fan Society, and it took me 7 months to write
Oh,
it.
wow. Okay, 7 and 7. I think that's your magic number.
Actually, it took me about 7 months. So I then after that, so when I sent that off to my editor, I always start writing my next book. So I started rewriting one of my science fiction novels that I had started in high school. And it was so much better after writing two novels. I'm like, oh, well, I guess I've been writing much better. But I'm like, I want to finish the Fan Society first, and then I'll work on it. Because I also hate when authors switch in the middle of series to do something else. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. And so I started working on the Academy Days, which is a series of 4 novellas, which is of her, from the Fan Society, her training to be a spy. And that took me about 6.5, 7 months to write as well, all 4 of them,
Oh, wow.
which accumulative is about the same size of the Fan Society.
Okay, so we can pause right there.
Yeah,
So Isabella and the Beast is the first book in the Fan Society?
no, it's a standalone.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
standalone. And then my Fan Society was originally going to be a standalone until my cousin, who's one of my beta readers, is like, there needs to be more of this. I must have more. I'm like, I guess I have enough like story here to do more. And so I wrote the novellas, which I had already planned on doing, and I actually just finished writing and sending out book 2 of the Fan Society to my editor like yesterday.
Oh,
So,
congratulations.
and I just started now working since that was sent off. I'm now reworking on that one science fiction story, and I've been working on that right now. So I'm
Okay,
already getting started on my next story.
so break this down for us. Isabel and the Beast is already out. You have the
Yep.
first book in the Fan Society out.
I have 3 novellas out. I have the
Okay.
4th one written. I'm currently getting a cover for it. I am planning on, currently all 4 of them are separate e-reads only. So as soon as the fourth one comes out, I'm going to compile them into one book and turn it into a paperback book just called Academy Days. And then I'm also planning on having a journal come out, which I will have a book cipher hidden in the bottom of the pages,
Ooh.
which coincide with the Fan Society book. And I'll have that come out, and it has some clues to what's going to be happening in book 2 of my Fan Society novel. And hopefully by next year, I'll have book 4 out, the compilation out, the journal out, and book 2 out, hopefully by next year, October, is the
Oh,
goal.
wow. Have a very, very aggressive publishing schedule next year.
Uh, well, most, as I said, most of it's already written. So most of that is me. I have been, because I write as my next stuff is coming out. And so some of these, like the journal, doesn't take as much to do. I mean, they're all fairly similar. I just need to look up the stuff for the cipher. But as I said, most of these I've written. I'm already writing my next book as well. And so I'm hoping that I can pace this all out so that way when baby comes, I have things all set and ready to go that won't involve any brain capacity on my part.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, that's quite aggressive. Then you're going to be a mama again.
I'm gonna be a mama again, so I have no idea what's gonna happen when baby comes. But that's why I'm trying to get as much with my next book done before baby comes, because once baby comes, I'm sure I'm going to lose my mind.
I know. Raising kids, yeah. At least your 7-year-old is old enough so he can
Yeah.
kind of help. Lovely.
Oh, he is my big helper, and he is so excited to have a little sister.
Oh,
He has been super excited, and my husband has been, oh my goodness, my girl is gonna be a daddy's girl. I just know it.
sweet. I love girl dads. They're the best.
So my husband's super excited. So we'll see what happens because it all kind of depends on baby and baby's personality,
Oh, yeah.
because I'm sure you understand how that is. Um, which is why I'm trying to just have like some things that don't take me a lot of time, like that don't take a whole bunch of effort on my part. Because the 4 novellas, the compilation, I mean, I have all of them written. I just need to format them, which doesn't take too much brain power to format them, since I've already formatted 4 novellas and a novel. So,
So you have the novelist out, obviously, and
mhm,
then you'll have the 4 novellas in ebook, but then you're going to bundle them into one paperback.
mhm.
That's really smart. And I know that e-readers are different from paperback readers and book set readers and bundle readers. You know, everybody has, there's a bunch of different audiences.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually my fan society, I also have an audiobook for that one to test it out and see what's going on. So hopefully when I finally earn back the money I spent to create it, I'll be able to do another audiobook. But, I'm a poor, lowly newbie author who doesn't have a big audience yet.
Well, I mean, it'll
I'm
grow.
working.
I'm convinced 2024 is Thrive year. I'm like speaking it into existence to everyone I talk to. And obviously, with that beautiful baby on the way, 2024 will be a wonderful year for you.
It's been pretty good. As I said, I'm really proud of where I've gotten. I mean, I have grown and I have learned a lot, and I know what I'm doing a lot more, and I feel a lot more comfortable. Have I earned any money? No. Because editing cost a pretty penny there. But
Yeah,
am I
a
proud of
good
what I'm doing?
editor is worth it, but they're very expensive.
Especially since I've been having a pretty rigorous schedule, which means before I've built up a lot of people who would constantly and consistently buy my stuff.
Mhm.
I have another book that I need to edit. So, but I mean, I'm really proud of where I am. And so So I do interviews and things like this. I actually just did several vendor fairs this holiday season, and I actually sold quite a few of my books through local vendor fairs. So,
That's exciting. So how do authors, since you've done so many, how do authors find out about that? Or how did you know in order to be able to do so many holiday shows?
um, before I did my book, I actually sold earrings at vendor fairs.
Oh, okay.
And so now at my vendor fairs, I sell both. So if somebody
Nice.
doesn't buy my book, I sell my earrings and I still win.
Okay, I love
Actually,
that.
these are some that I sell. It's
Uh,
a unicorn. So I sell, really cute small things, and I had originally done earrings as a hobby. My sister opened her own hair salon. She's like, "Hey, you should sell your earrings here." I'm like, "What?" And it was probably a good thing because I learned a lot about business from
mhm.
doing that, which helped me when I then like focused fully on being an author.
Yeah.
I knew some of the business side of things that I needed to do for it, and that's where I learned about the vendor fairs and things like that. It also helps to be in touch with your librarians because they were so happy to have a book signing at the library for me. Um, and
Did
so
you
actually that's my
approach did you approach the library and ask them?
um actually not the first time.
Hmm.
Not the first time they approached me, but they knew I had been working on it and I was a fairly new author. They're like super, super supportive of authors. And I mean, I live in a small town in the middle of nowhere. They're happy to do whatever events and activities there are. So, they're very happy to do that. I'm actually hopefully this 2024 I'm planning on focusing on talking to other libraries in my area and saying, "Hey, you want a local librarians, local authors, book?" Sort of thing. I actually talked to the main city that's near where I live, and they already bought a, a couple of copies of my book. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Slowly and surely, I am growing what I can do and what I've been doing things with what I could handle at the time. So,
I have a bunch of questions. So with the library system, when you said they've already purchased those, is that to put in the library books so that way people
mhm.
can check them out? And did
Yep.
you have to go through Ingram Sparks to make them available to them?
Yes, I do have my book on Ingram Sparks, and I did have it specifically so that libraries can order my book.
Okay, that's
Um, Libraries and
helpful to
schools and
ask.
things like that.
Yeah.
Especially now, I did it when you still had to pay to upload your book, but I did it with a coupon, so it was free for me. But now they've made it so it's free to upload your books onto Ingram Sparks. And there's a lot of people who are like, "Hey, do it on multiple platforms and things like that." You have pros and cons for every publishing company, but since it's self-published, by all means, because every single publishing company has a different area of expertise. Like Amazon is the best for distribution, but you also don't get like bulk buys. Usually people buy one book for personal use. But Ingram Sparks, you get a lot more schools, libraries, and things like that. So they're generally going to buy at least a minimum of two to more because it is your store, your bookstores, your libraries. Why would they only have one copy? Because they have a lot of people coming to their places. So,
Well, and I thought Ingram Sparks, I know they had done away with the upload fee on the front end, but I thought within like 60 days they still charge it. It seemed kind of like a little bait and switch.
I haven't done anything recently yet.
Okay,
So, because I did it with my Fan Society, and remember, my Academy days are only ebook.
correct.
And since I have them on KDP, I cannot upload them elsewhere.
Oh, right, because you're
And so I haven't tested it yet.
gotcha.
But I'm I would be really disappointed if they did, considering most publishing companies, it's free to upload your stuff onto it.
I know.
Like Amazon, it's free to upload. Barnes and Noble is free to upload. So far, every place but Ingram Sparks was that
I
way.
know. I rely upon that because even though I have, an editor, I have proofreaders, I have a beta team, there is still some typos that get past all of us, and you're like, damn it. So
Oh
whoever
yeah,
knows, if you find one, send it to me because I'm going to fix it and I'm going to re-upload it.
yeah. That was I actually got after one of my friends who's also and I was like, yeah, I did notice there were some errors, but you had already published it. I'm like, dude, I format my own stuff. Amazon, it's free to upload things. Just give me the things that I can re-upload it. It's not that big of a deal. But so I'm like, but obviously he hasn't done that yet and doesn't understand as much. I'm like, no, just tell me. Because it's a lot harder when you don't format your own stuff because then you have to get it back to your formatter and things. But I format my own things. I do everything self because formatting fees when you have that many books can be very expensive.
It really can. And when
So
you're publishing, a self-publishing author, you have to try and trim costs. And I mean, we know that you can't cheat on covers, you can't cheat on editing. So I feel like formatting, if you can do it yourself, and it's kind of nice because you can kind of play around with the artistic side and on the
yeah.
interior graphics. So I think formatting can be really fun.
Yeah, I actually found this because I'm very into researching stuff because being an author was new and I didn't know stuff. So really the biggest one that was the biggest formatter for the longest time was vellum.
Correct.
Sometimes do InDesign, but InDesign is very much you have to know the program very well to be able to
It's a
use
steep
it.
learning in design.
Steep learning curve in InDesign, so it's not really applicable to a new person doing. But I found out they created a new formatting program that's cheaper than Vellum. It's on PC, and you can also download docx files from it. It's
Is
called
that
Atticus.
Atticus? Yeah.
It's been really nice, and it's been really nice to me.
Well,
So,
the PC people are tired of hearing about Vellum for Mac only. Everybody's like, don't say Vellum, when you're not a
like,
Mac
oh
user.
my goodness. Because I did research on it. I'm like, am I going to have to buy a MacBook to format my freaking stuff? And so Atticus came out. I'm like, sweet. Apparently it's right on time because I was like hunting for like a formatting. I'm like, I don't want to pay for that. I also don't want to do that. Oh, Atticus. Huh, this is new. I can deal with bugs. I'll try it out and see what it is. And it's been treating me really nice.
Good.
Um,
Is that where you also formatted your journal? Because I'm really fascinated about your journal, where you got the
uh,
idea, and the cipher. That's so interesting because most authors do not have that.
no. Actually, I formatted that through Canva.
Oh,
They have a
and a lot
template
of us use
for
Canva.
journals. It's You can find a free template for journal stuff. Obviously, I reformatted some of that, and then I basically added at the bottom a text box that has the book cipher. So my sister, who is an avid spy lover and an avid reader, and she is one of my beta readers. And so she's like, you should do something like with the secret code and stuff. I'm like, that's an idea. And so I'm like, well, what's a code that anybody could really use and figure out? I'm like, book ciphers are pretty, they're not super complex, but very spy-ish. And I'm like, if it's a book cipher, I can also do it with my Fan Society book. So if you don't get my Fan Society book, you won't know what's going on. And it's a win-win situation for me. And then I also like in my Fan Society, because how I wrote it is I have snippets in between chapters of like messages, scraps of paper, medical records, newspaper articles, you know, things that you would find as a spy to get your information.
Oh, that's
And
fun.
some of those, and so some of those snippets is a book with a fan on it.
Hmm.
And so my journal is going to look like a leather-bound book with my Fan Society symbol, which is an open fan. And so, technically speaking, you would be writing the code about the Fan Society in the journal.
Oh, that's
So,
so ingenious. I love it.
so I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And then it could tide me over until I get this book done because morning sickness is a thing, and I'm not sure if I can get this done. I'm not sure if I can finish my thing. Like, oh, thank goodness I did finish it before the end of this year. I was hoping to, you know, get it finished written by October, but I'd rather take care of myself.
Of
So,
course, baby. So you have all that. You just sent it off to the editor, and then you're starting
mhm.
to write the third book.
No, this is a new series, well, a new standalone book. This is one that I had started basically after I finished my high school one. This was even before Isabella and the Beast that I had written, and my original beta readers are like my cousins who are avid readers and my siblings,
Hmm.
and they have been very upset that I've never finished it. But
Okay, this is
since it's
the sci-fi series.
this is a science fiction series, which meant I I had a hard time with building my setting, which is very, very important in a science fiction
Oh,
novel. And
yeah,
so I
world
had a
building is everything.
world building is everything in
Mhm.
a science fiction. And so every new book that I wrote, I focused on one of my weaknesses and worked really hard to like focus on it.
Okay,
And
give
so
us
I
an
realized
example.
so
What was one of your
so
weaknesses that you focused on?
So in my Isabel and the Beast, my very first book, I knew I had problems with movement and conversations. So in a conversation on the book, I'd say, "How are you doing? Yes, thank you very much." That. But in a book, you want to say, "Hey, how are you doing?" He said with a flirtatious smile, you know, sort of thing. You want to add that action in the or movement within the conversation because you're not just going to have words spouted at each other. So I focused on that. And then in my fan society, I focused on setting because I realized that I didn't have as big of an emphasis on that.
Hmm.
My characters were good, my plotline was good, but I needed to work on my character setting. And so I focused on that. And so I asked my sister, who um, basically every week I would call her and I would read out loud everything that I wrote. And
Bless her heart. Some people are audio like that. Some people are very visual, you know?
well, it was also just a chance for me to talk to her over the phone because, you know, life gets busy. And so this was something that gave us a chance to talk to each other.
Hmm.
And she's a teacher. And so she was very happy to, so she was very happy to help me. And she's like, "Well, I don't know how to be a reviewer." I'm like, "Well, these are the things I'm working on." She's like, "Okay, well, you might want to do this. This feels a bit confusing for this character," you know, that sort of thing. Um, and so that was, and so I tried to work on getting, and so I'm focusing on trying to be better in my writing every time I write a new book.
Oh,
And if
I
I
love that. I mean, studying, see, what I find fascinating by you is you literally did study creative writing. And so I always think those that have degrees in English or an MFA or creative writing, I'm like, oh, they know it all. And yet you're here on here saying, like, hey, I have weaknesses too. I'm challenging myself to conquer them with each book. I love that.
Thank you. I I never ended up getting my degree. I ended up switching it because of schooling. I was originally going to school to be a librarian. I
Okay,
was going to get my
library science.
library library science degree, but then they got rid of my program and I was kind of
Oh,
floating, and so I ended
goodness.
up taking online classes for creative writing, and then I went to school for, sorry, my husband's phone went off. Um, and then I went to school for genealogy, family history, which actually is very relevant to writing stories, more than I ever thought.
Okay, I read an article today that genealogy has been actually helping there's a lab here in Houston that they use genealogy to help with cold cases. And we're talking, the criteria is the cold case has to be 20 years or older. When DNA and everything else has failed, they're using genealogy. Isn't that fascinating?
I Genealogy, there's a lot of stuff in genealogy that you don't realize goes into it until you've studied it. Because a lot of genealogy is you're trying to find records, right, of
Yeah.
your certain ancestor or certain person. But a lot of things they talk about is because people move, right? I mean, I've
Oh,
already moved, and so
all the
you can't
time you
just
lose
all the
touch.
time
Yep.
you lose stuff, you move, people pass away,
Mm-hmm.
things happen. And so you have to actually take a look at the place they're living, what's going on in that time period, and use that to help judge where you might find their next record. Like I have an ancestor who moved around to a whole bunch of teeny tiny towns. And if you looked at their record, like their, oh, now I'm forgetting the name of it, but it said that they were a laborer. And if
Okay.
you follow these towns, it was following the mining towns
Oh,
where they
neat.
were building the
Yep.
railroad.
As
And
you're
so
crossing
he
the
would
U.S.
constantly move building the railroad, but you have to pay attention to what's going on in that time period and the area you're in. So which really helps because you're basically making up a story of this person based off of the records that they left behind, which is
So
utterly
cool.
fascinating.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
it's really cool, and it's actually helped me a lot, especially with the Fan Society because that one is historical fiction. I did it based off of 1830s England. And so a lot of my searching things and stuff like that really helped with creating the atmosphere of 1830s England.
What made
So,
you pick that? You know, if you're starting out, it wasn't going to be is what you wrote in college, and then you rewrote it and edited it and published it. But what made you pick that in the first place?
well, first off, it wasn't going to have any magic. Creating a magic system is hard and complex. And if
I
it's
talked to a
based,
lot of fantasy authors on these lives. I've learned a lot
yes,
about magic, soft magic, hard magic, your own system, the hard rules of magic.
you, and I know that because I love fantasy. But I also knew that it was hard to do. And I figured that if it was set in reality, it would be easier to do because I could literally pull from actual things. The story idea actually came from me sitting behind somebody with a dress with a whole bunch of fans on it. And I'm a martial artist. I do martial arts. And I'm like, you know what? I always wanted to learn the fan art, do martial arts with a fan. I'm like, ooh, you know what? If I was like in 1830s, they always carried around fans. What if they were like weapons? I'm like, ooh, what if they were spies? So they just pretended they were, fancy ladies. I'm like, oh, what if it was Cinderella as a spy in 1830s? And then the story came from there.
Oh my gosh, I love those what if scenarios. They're the best.
Well, that was the what if for my Isabel and the Beast is what if the Beast wasn't a beast because of curse?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so my prince was raised by palace guard dogs and acts like a dog. So, I mean, that was the Isabel and the Beast was a what if, but the other one is like, I just kind of like, I'm like,
You
oh,
followed the
oh, that would be
bouncing
cool
ball.
to follow the bouncy ball. I swear, we're like squirrel. Uh,
But
that's our
that book, so are you saying that series will have the first book, which is already out, and then the four novellas, and then the journal, and that then closes out that series?
now then I have book two that
Okay,
I'm
then you do
currently
have book.
editing.
Okay,
I have it I have it all written and I've already did my personal edits and now I've sent it off to an editor. So that's already written
for 24.
and ready.
And then switching
Yes, so that should
gears
be up.
into the sci-fi. So is the sci-fi historical? Well, no, sci-fi is it historical, present day, or future?
It's more like sci-fi fantasy. So
Mm.
it's taking place on another planet with an entirely with the Zulans, which are humanoid people with blue eyes, and they have like blue blood. And um, there was something happened, and it mutated the forest, and so now it's a living entity, and it kind of attacks them. But while they were distracted by this, uh World Eater came and smashed onto their planet. Now, the forest can only go so far and see so far, and so the Azulans were kind of trapped in the middle between this metallic cyborg race and the planet of the trees, and they've been like locked in combat. And so this is 100 years of this war going on, and my main character, he has a connection to the forest, which, the forest tries to kill people. So it's a bit weird to everybody in the planet. And he has green eyes, which is weird because everybody has blue eyes. And so he ends up meeting this girl who was a scientist from 100 years ago who was trapped in a capsule. And she's like, well, you're part of the Forest Talker Project. You must have been, where they inserted a serum to basically connect people to the forest so they can talk to them, because obviously the planet would die without trees. And so they needed to communicate with the forest. And so, but then they went insane, and the whole World Eater came, and he's a descendant of the Forest Talkers. And so basically the forest is now trying to make him the avatar of the forest, like basically their mouthpiece. And he's like, no, I don't want to be a freak. Thank you very much. I don't want to be. And then he's kind of being forced along this route of being the mouthpiece of the forest and trying to find out his whole past, and then being forced into this war against a giant metallic race of aliens. So that's my
Okay,
story.
that is so creative. And you're saying this was a story that you started in college?
Uh, Before college, so I started at high school.
Oh, wow. I mean, is that so? It's interesting because you started with sci-fi. Well, you have the book that'll never see the light of day. It's in the vault.
Which is
Then you
a
have the sci-fi.
pirate story, no less.
You're so creative. Do you read across all these different genres? Is that why?
All right, the only
Oh.
thing I don't read is nonfiction. I'm sorry. I, I, I don't mind watching documentaries, but man, I can't read a nonfiction book. I can't do it. But I have read across all genres, and I find certain things I like in every genre.
Well,
So,
don't you think too, though, Daisha, that it makes you a better author just because romance tends to be really quick and about the banter and dialogue, right? Fantasy is lots of world building, and I think sci-fi is too, but lots of description, lots of narrative, a little less on the dialogue. So then, when you're reading, when you're writing across this, don't you think it just makes your works richer?
yeah, because I told you that I started writing 10 years ago. I rewrote what I had written after I wrote the Fan Society when I had more experience and more writing. And now I'm rereading that to make sure it still works, tweak it a little bit here or there. And I'm rereading it, I'm like, man, I love my characters.
You're like,
Because
ooh, pat on the back.
because basically like my main character, because if you don't understand, I love talking to people. Conversations is not something I have difficulty with. I talk a lot. I'm really good at
Super
talking.
strength.
And it's it's also really helpful doing vendor fairs, let me tell you.
Oh, I
Uh,
bet.
but but basically my main character, my male character, he is very sarcastic. It's
Okay.
his like defense
Yep.
mechanism is being super snarky, super sarcastic, which makes him a fun,
Oh,
character to like read
readers
about.
love it. Readers
Readers
love
love
snarky,
a
sarcastic.
fun, snarky character who's being forced to be a hero, and he's like, no. And so I think it helps a lot with other things. Of
Okay,
course, every genre
well,
kind of has a different strength, but
Chris, it reminds me of Chris Pratt, and was it Guardians of the Galaxy?
uh,
Do you,
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
okay, do you know what movie I'm talking about though? Because he
It,
was very resistant about being the hero too.
it's the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and I know what you're talking about. He was very, yes, he was like,
Uh-uh.
my planet was destroyed. What am I doing here? I just want my cup of tea.
Exactly.
I don't like change. I don't like things being different. I want to go. So
It
yes,
reminds me of
uh,
that. Your character?
he, yeah, I, he's a funny author. He's a really good author. I do like those type of books, which is kind of why I lean a bit more into it for the science fiction fantasy thing. Because I also love Brandon Sanderson, who is really big on creating
Okay.
characters. So not just the world building, but like characters. It's
Okay,
amazing.
he is like the king of it, right? Like if you want to pattern yourself off anyone, it's him. Did you see his Kickstarter, how much it raised, his most recent one?
I bought it.
Oh, you okay?
I bought his Year of Sanderson, and I love it. I loved every minute of it.
He's so talented. He made so much. It was tens of millions of dollars that he was like, he was then turning around and funding other Kickstarters for other authors because he's like, I don't need this much money. Plus, he's still at the university.
Yeah, actually, that was so after I had sent off my book to the Isabel and the Beast, I'm like, oh shoot, what am I gonna do now? And so obviously I do my
Mhm.
research and I'm like, I knew that Brandon Sanderson was a teacher
Yeah.
at BYU. I'm like, ugh, I can't go to his class. I would love to, but I can't go to his class. And I'm like, I wonder if he has anything you can find. So 2020 COVID, right?
Yeah.
His entire lectures, all like 13 of them, hour-long
I think on
lectures on
YouTube.
YouTube.
Yeah.
And I watched every single one of them, and he's the best teacher I've never had.
Girl, I think I have
He
a
was,
master's degree at YouTube University. You're like,
he
how do I
was
format and vellum? How do I do this? How do I do that? It's just like everything is on YouTube.
everything's on YouTube. Actually, that's where I got a lot of my stuff. But he, mind you, my book never changed my fan society while I was writing it. It was more that he put a name to some of the things that I was doing, and
Oh,
having the name of it, like naming the tool, made it so much easier and expounded my thoughts and also made me like realize certain things about me being an author and what is your success? What do you consider success? And different ideas and things like that. Um, and different ideas and things. And because of that, I've also become a much better like book reviewer. I have a friend of mine who makes sure I read his books because I'm his most critical reviewer, but he's like, my books always become much better after you read them. I'm like, thank you. I don't mean to be rude. This is me being,
no,
trying to
I
help you
understand.
do
And
things. So,
I am one of the few authors I know that actually read my reviews. Everybody's like, don't read your reviews, you'll be sad. But I do because people are brutal. And I want to know, how do I get better on my craft? I'm constantly trying to improve my craft. And, we get in ruts. You don't know what you don't know. You don't see what you can't see. And so it's
and
helpful.
it's helpful. I've read all my reviews, and for me, I haven't been upset by any review, even my 3-star review, because I'm like, well, they liked my characters, they liked my plotline, they just didn't like my writing style, which I can accept. I don't like every writing style either.
Yeah.
And so it's more taking, because I also got a 2-star review, but that 2-star review didn't leave any message. I'm like, I'm going to ignore you because you're not going to talk to me and tell me what you think is wrong.
Right.
And so it's taking what you can from it without taking it to heart.
And that's incredibly difficult because, yeah, I've had some that are lower. And when I read them, it's one thing when they say like, I don't like this character, I can't relate to them, or that character's like to this or to that. And that is not constructive criticism for me, because we write there is all different types of people in this world. So there has to be all different types of characters too. But it's when they
Yeah.
get into you as the author and you're writing, I'm like, okay, ooh, this is the good stuff. This is what I need to hear. Because you're right. Sometimes those that are close to you, they'll be brutal. Although I do have a brain trust, and there's like 5 of us in it. And so, yeah, they will be pretty brutal with me.
I,
I'm like, good.
I A lot of authors tell you to not use your family. But as you've already told, I use my family a lot, mostly because they know I want to succeed. They may be nice about telling me criticisms, but they will tell me criticisms because I don't take it as a criticism. I take it as something constructive for me to be better in this story. I don't view it as them trying to cross red marks across my page. I'm like, hey, I need help making the story great. You love to read. Help me, please.
No, that's
And
a great
so
way to look at it.
And so that's I've and so they know that I want them to tell me if something's wrong. So as long as your people's like, don't just tell me what I want to hear. I need to hear what's wrong so I can fix it.
Yeah.
And make it better. And so, and as I said, they've stayed with me since my chunky high school writing years. So, I mean, if they can handle that writing, they can handle what I'm doing now.
But you know what I find,
So,
Dacia, is that they love to see the progress. Like, they love to be on the journey with you. They love to see the growth in your writing discipline and your writing craft. They like it.
they love it, and they always cheer me on. It's nice to have somebody who's in your corner, who's trying to make you succeed. As I said, I call my sister every week, and sometimes when I'm feeling, I'm like, is this going good? Am I writing the right direction? You know, I asked my sister, like, what do you think of the direction? She's like, yeah, sounds good. It's going great. What's next? Are you done with this chapter? You know, sort of thing. And it just like relief. And so for me, I'm really happy because writer's block, right? Everybody has it and nobody knows how to fix it. Which the reason why is because writer's block is different for every person. What causes you to get stuck is different for every person. And I found I'm a very like I have a story in mind and must go from A to B. I know who my characters are, and I throw them into situations and they kind of act a certain way.
Yeah.
But when I didn't like pace myself, because I'm an avid reader as well, but I'm kind of more of an instinctual, I know the pace of a book. And so if I'm not pacing it right, I just stop. I come to a shuddering halt in my writing. And then I realize after reading it out loud to my sister, I'm like, oh, I need to write more in that conversation so it doesn't sound so abrupt or, you know, choppy. And then also to help me keep my confidence up because it's hard writing a book. That's a lot of words. That's a lot of pages. And so having somebody's like, yeah, the story's going well, right? I like it. You know, that sort of thing just helps with you know like a boost in confidence to help me keep going and writing. So having that conversation once a week is fabulous. And if I can't get to her, you know, and I need it sooner, I call my cousin who I also talk to and she helps me out. So it's my support
It is
system.
critical that you have support. When I don't subscribe to that adage that it can't be family. I mean, support can come in all forms. And so, but I know I have a ARC reader team, and so I like writer's block. I'm like, where am I even going with this story? So today I reached out to my ARC team. I was like, tell me what you would like to see in this book. So specifically, I was like, what does this couple do for fun? What would make an interesting date? What is your ideal date? And so I kind of gave like 3 questions. And so, you know, I was just like, to your point about writer's block, I'm like, I don't even know. Like, there's they're a very cozy couple. And so I thought, well, what does a cozy couple do? They're not going to go out and party. So I relied upon them. And, you know, it was just like a flutter of like all these ideas. And so, boom, writer's block over. Now I know what direction to take.
It's really nice because I have another cousin. I have a lot of family,
You said
who
three.
actually she did fan fiction. So she has written before, so she kind of understands what I need in my writing. And actually, because I became a published author, she's now trying to get her own book published.
Yay, love
And she's
it.
like, I would have never done it if I didn't know an author who can, help me through this process because it's terrifying. I'm like, yes, I
Maybe
know,
you're inspired
and I
her.
understand. Yeah, it made me, I'm like, oh, it makes me so happy. So, she's currently going through her first draft of her novel, and she's doing really well. Uh, she had to put it on hold for her own child that had been born recently. But
Listen.
I'm very proud of her, and I'm like, yeah, you can do it. You've got this.
Do
And so
you,
we throw you story ideas all the time.
well, that's what I was going to ask. Do you feel like writer's block is the hardest thing about being an author?
No, marketing.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Marketing's the worst. It's actually easy to write a book once you've written it once. Like, because as you write your book, you figure out what causes you problems. Obviously, there'll always be new issues every book, but since you've written it once, you kind of know how to get out of that rut. You kind of know how to get out of your situations. And so it's a lot easier to write, especially once you've done it
Yeah.
once. Marketing is, no, it's bad. I hate marketing so much. It is the bane of my existence.
Well, I feel there's a lot of authors that would feel the same way as you. It's challenging because you may emulate an author, let's say Brandon Sanderson. You think, well, I'll do Kickstarter, I'll step literally in the blueprint that he's providing, and it will work terrifically for him, but it won't work for you. And it's really puzzling to try and figure out, like, what's the secret sauce here? Why is, you know, if I could do what they do, it's not happening.
Yeah, it's been touch and go. So that's why even though I'm not a huge hit, how far
Not
I've
yet.
gotten, not
Not
yet,
yet.
even though I'm not a huge hit yet, I know that's what I always also tell myself. After my first book, there was basically like my launch and everything that could go wrong did go wrong,
Oh
sort of
no.
thing. And so obviously I have to do better with my next launch. And it did go really well. And I learned so much because everything went absolutely wrong. It's not the end of the world. My book's still up for sale. People still buy it. The world doesn't end because you failed at because launching is really important, right? That helps give you the first boost. But
Yes.
if you don't do great at it, it's not the end of the world. And
Correct.
I've learned that as my process is. I'm like, yeah, I'm not, you massively popular yet, but I've been gaining a following. I've been consistently selling my book every month. It may not be a lot, and it may not be very many copies, but I have been. And I will slowly work towards my goal. And as I get more books, maybe I'll get more people. And especially since I've been writing a variety of, genres, I may catch a wider net. So who knows? So I'm I'm very proud of where I've gotten. It may not be very far, but I've gotten there.
Well,
So
like you said, no, I mean, you learn so much. It's all self-taught. You are a published author. You already have all these other works in the pipeline, let's say. And then you're also an inspiration to your cousin and those that you don't even know. You know, at least she's reached out, and so you know. But that's the thing is, when you put your works out, and your kids will be able to eventually read what you've written. How cool is that?
my son says he wants to be an author like
That's
mommy.
so sweet.
It's adorable. I love it.
You can have a mommy and me book.
actually Griffin wrote his own story, and I helped him. And
Mhm.
it was a Paw Patrol story
Paw
that he wrote,
Patrol
and I put
fan.
like yep, and I put like coloring pages, Paw Patrol coloring pages, and I printed it out and gave it to all the younger cousins for Christmas last year.
That's so sweet.
And so he had his very own book that he published, like mommy.
Yep. See, told you you're an inspiration. So, what would you say is has been the easiest part of this journey you're on?
Um, Once I realized it, but the easiest part was actually probably finding my support system. I have so
Oh.
many people around me, and then like on Instagram, I found one person, and then they just led me to a whole bunch of other authors to find and combine and gain ideas and learn about stuff. The author community is super nice and super helpful,
Mhm.
especially the indie authors. They want everybody to succeed. And unlike some other like stores or things like that, you can't step on anybody's toes because you can't write the exact same thing as somebody else. But if you both write historical fiction, hey, my readers would probably like your
Yep.
stuff, and your readers would probably like my stuff. And so it works to your advantage if you're helping other authors. Because that was kind of like what really helped me grow bigger was I started doing because I had so many authors come and help me with, self-publishing.
Mhm.
And so I decided to do a meet the author
Oh,
post
yeah.
on my Instagram. And I started that. I'm like, now I just want to do it. This is fun. And because I did that, I never asked for anything for them, but they started sharing my post and liking my things and commenting on things because I did this post for them. As I said, it wasn't anything I asked for, but they helped me with things. And then, like, when I was uploading Fan Society for the very first time, I opened it up and it's like, hey, you have 12 categories. I'm like, what in the junk is this? And so I messaged one of my friends on Instagram and she's like, hold on, don't panic. I've got you. And she basically spent the next half hour messaging me, helping me find my categories and getting my book set up for ready to publish and upload on Amazon. And
Oh, that's
I'm
so nice.
like, she was super sweet and it really like it helped me, not panic. So there's a lot of good people in the author community. As soon as you look and reach, it doesn't take very much to look and find somebody who's willing to help you in the author community. And then I also had all my family. My husband's super supportive of me being an author, and my family is totally there for me. And so finding support was probably one of the easiest things to do in being an author and coming
I
up with
love that.
story
Well,
ideas because they're
I
fun.
think the Bookstagram community, I always say we rise with the tide. And you're right, there's so much room on the table for everybody because you said you're an avid reader and there is a lot of voracious readers. And so now, when we're coming to the close of 2023, you're seeing a lot more posts of how many books people have read. It is, some of those numbers are staggering. And
Oh,
there's no author, I don't care what genre, could publish that many. I mean, some of them are reading 100, 200, 300 books in a year. And
it's
so it takes all of
crazy.
us authors to create that sort of output that these readers are intaking.
Yeah, I it was crazy because and also for Christmas I do
Mhm.
the 12 days of Christmas post. I think you saw it.
Yep.
And so
Super cute.
thank you. And so every day I do a different genre. And those got those posts are some of my favorite and most viewed posts that I do every year, and it's really really fun because most of that is supporting other authors
Yeah.
because obviously I do not have 74 books published.
Not yet.
Uh,
That's the
not
thing, not yet.
yet. But that's a very steep number for an author to come up with. So, I mean, a lot of those books are a whole bunch of other authors, and it was so fun getting together. Meeting you was one of the, was one of the, and so I got to meet so many authors because I'm doing these posts to help support other authors,
Yes.
which means I've gained more connections, and I can help them, and they can help me, and it, it's been it's actually been really fun. The author community has been amazing.
Yeah.
I love you
And
guys.
I always say my DMs are always open because sometimes you just need like to just a quick question, just like could you answer something really briefly? And I know that we can go onto YouTube or you can go on and research it, but sometimes it just takes 30 seconds to get an answer and then you can continue on with your workflow or whatever you're working on.
Yeah, actually, I'm on a group chat on Instagram of authors, which is how I got things like, hey, my book is coming out, and they help support posts of authors putting out their new books. If you have a question on publishing or editing and things like that, any question, they're like, hey, I'm in England. How do I need, my ISBN number? Is that a thing? Do I need a copyright thing? And so, like, it was, so it was, it's been a really nice, very helpful group. It's helped me out a lot, in growing my marketing because it's a pain in the hiney. And also like my skills because when I can answer other authors' questions, I'm like, I know that. I may not be the best, but I know that. And then I realize like, oh, you know what? I do know things.
Yeah.
I'm not fumbling about in the water anymore. I do know things. And I can help other people so they don't flounder like I did. So it's been really nice. Like there was one who was new. She's like, I'm absolutely terrified of this, and I told her what I had learned about it's not the end of the world. If a book is not a piece of food. It will stay on the shelf and people will love it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why they're classics. They've been around for a while. It's not the end of the world if something doesn't happen right. You can always fix it. So it's been really
Well, and
nice.
I think too, when we look at our year over year reflection, which is, what I do around this time every year, is you reflect back on what you've achieved, kind of your wins, losses, course correcting action for the future. And you really can marvel, like in the moment, you think, okay, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And it's very tactile, very granular. And so you can't see the forest through the trees. But when you do this reflection period, how it was December of last year to now December this year, it's the growth and the learning and the knowledge you've gained is really usually pretty phenomenal.
I'm like, since 2001, I have how many books written? Like, and published? Like, I'm like before being an author was like a pipe dream.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It was like
Those are
something that would happen in the future, sort of thing. But when I finally took the step and I got my book published, it like opened up a new world. And I'm like, oh, I can do this. And now I have 4 books pretty much all set up. I have almost 25 years worth of stuff already in my head and ready to go.
ah,
Because as soon as I finish my Forest Talker, I have a trilogy that I want to come out with, and it's music. Music is magic, and like everybody, like there's crystals. The singers power up the crystals, and if you sing a certain tone, it creates key or vibrations and stuff like that. So everybody has to sing because that's how they make machines move, characters
so
move,
would that
things
be
like that.
fantasy?
Yeah,
Since it is a
It would
magic
be
system.
totally fantasy. It would be kind of like crystal steampunk in a way, like that's the setting. And it's going to be a trilogy, and I have it all planned out. At least the basic idea of my story planned out, where, the slums are the people who can't sing, so who can't sing? Well, maybe people who've hit their head, or they've gotten a sore throat, or, they're tone deaf, things like that. Because I've been in choir for many years, so music is a very integral part of that. And then I was planning on either doing my Fool and the Thief, which is more of like a Persian romance story,
Mm.
where like he's the third prince and the other two princes have tried to kill him, and so after getting hit on the head with tiles, he pretends to be an idiot.
Oh,
And then he catches a thief in the palace, but sh- but he can't say anything because he's an idiot. And so she keeps trying to poke him into revealing that he's not an idiot. Um, so there was that story. I have an apocalyptic one that I plan on writing, which is like back in the olden days, they used to sacrifice people to the river to make it rain, stuff like that.
yes.
And basically, she was supposed to be sacrificed to keep this evil entity from escaping. She's like, magic doesn't exist. Why are we doing this? And so she ran away before she was sacrificed, and then the world ended. And so she's now trying to atone for everything. And then she finds out what actually happened, and she meets the person who helped her escape. And she's like, you're the one who told me not to do this, and now everybody's like, people are hurt. And then finds out everything. So I have that story too. So I have stories.
So, Daisha, what I'm hearing is that you will probably never have writer's block again.
Well, I have writer's block, but I won't have a story block. I definitely have stories for days. I have stories for days. Writer's block, that's something that has more to do with the flow of the story than anything else. But
True.
I've been doing very well, and I've learned a lot because I've also been consistently writing, because that's also a really big thing. Because those 7 years writing, my writing jumped doing that 7 months in my next
Yeah.
book, because I was consistently writing, and I have a schedule. Like Monday, I create posts, and then Tuesday through Friday, I write until lunch, and then I'm done. On Saturday, I may create a few TikTok videos and things like that. But then Sunday and Saturday are kind of like my break days to get things done around the house and church and stuff like that.
Do you
So that
have
way
a
I don't get burned out.
set word count on Tuesday through Friday?
Never.
Oh.
Basically, I have a minimum word count.
Mhm.
So I want to write a minimum of 200 words, unless if I'm editing or doing something else. Like if I'm doing my pre-writing and stuff like that, I obviously don't have a set, thing. But for my writing, I only set a minimum of 200 words, because that forces me to write something even in the midst of a writer's block.
Mm-hmm.
Because, obviously you're not going to write exactly 200 words. It's not how it works.
No.
And if you're in a flow, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But forcing myself to write 200 words, that's what, a paragraph?
Mm-hmm.
It's not the end of the world. It's not going to kill me. And even if I'm feeling nervous about the story, or I'm having issues with the plot line, I could write a paragraph. I can get a paragraph done. Or if I feel junky,
Yeah.
life is crazy, I can get a paragraph done. And if I even just write 200 words minimum those 4 days, I would still get a novel written by the end of the year.
Yep.
So that's why I don't set a maximum word count. I just set a minimum of 200 words, something easy and achievable. So
Because
that's
then
how
it
I function.
also builds your confidence. You're not raking yourself over the coals and then
Mhm.
inviting in all these negative emotions that stop us up and then make us feel worse.
Yeah. So I wanted something that was achievable. I'm a mom. Life is hard. Life is crazy enough. And then you add being a mom on top of it, and,
Mm-hmm.
life in general. I'm like, I just need to make sure I'm keeping my schedule.
Yeah.
And if I'm consistently writing, my skills aren't going to get rusty or things like that. And also making sure that you have a break, which is why I don't really write on Sunday and Saturday, because I don't want to burn out and I don't need to write those days. I mean, you've heard how many books I've come out with. Obviously, I don't need it, and I feel a lot better about myself, and I can spend more time with my family because those are the 2 days my husband and my kid aren't at work or school. So that's my thing. It's my obviously other people function differently, but that's how I've gotten to balance my life. Obviously, with baby on the way, things will change.
Yep.
But for now, that's what's been working for me. So,
well, this has been such a wonderful and really a fast hour. I can't believe we're over our time, but we need to reschedule for next year because you have a dynamic 2024, lots of publishing going on, and I'd love to catch up with you then to just chat about where are you at and what do you have in the works.
I would be happy to.
Yay.
It's been really fun. This has been a very enjoyable thing. You can tell I talk a lot.
Oh, I love it. Do you have time for a quick rapid fire?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, rapid fire questions. First one, paperback or e-reader? Which do you prefer?
I prefer paperback, but I have been doing e-reader and audiobooks for travel and stuff mostly.
They're convenient.
They're convenient, and also my kid doesn't come up and interrupt me when I'm listening to an audiobook. But when I have a paperback book, he's more than likely to stop me in the middle of something.
Oh, that's so cute. Okay, plotting or pantsing?
I like how Brandon Sanderson said it. It's more of a spectrum. I'm probably leaning more towards a pantser, but I do plot out a skeletal structure of my story, and then I set myself off in that direction. So I'm not super going off on tangents. I at least have a vague idea of where I want to go, and I know where I want to end up. So technically, it's mostly pantser, but I do plotting and things ahead of time, which helps with things.
Got it. Do you write in first person or third person?
Third person. It's
Present
easier.
tense or past?
What?
Third person, present tense or past?
Third person omniscient
Ah,
is my favorite style of writing.
that's difficult. It's one of the more difficult ones.
I always find it easier because you're kind of looking at them at third person. Well, third person limited.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually focus on one person, but they can see everything, but it's through that person's eyes, sort of thing. But I don't say I, because I always feel like doing first person, there's a lot of I's and me's, and it bothers me to no end.
Are they plot driven or character driven?
Probably a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm writing, I feel like my characters have a life of their own.
Mm-hmm.
So it's probably more character driven than plot driven, though I do have a lot of heavy plot elements that function.
So
That makes any sense. Oh my goodness. It's 8 o'clock.
writing alone, writing with a partner, or writing sprints?
I prefer quiet. I can't even have music.
That was going to be one of my in silence or with music.
Yeah, silent. I like being on my own, silent, but I do love editing with people, if that makes any difference. I'm weird that way. I like calling and talking to my sister and speaking out loud and stuff like that. But when I'm writing myself, I write on my own. I don't like listening to anything because it always screws up my thought process. Because I do everything super internally, and I love music. So if there's music on, I am going to sing to it. So I can't have music on.
Also, you'll have like
I can usually have like a TV on, like if my son's watching a show in front of me, but I can't have people talking.
oh yeah, because the talking is a distraction, but the other one seems to be like white noise.
Yeah. But as long as it's not music, because I will randomly burst out into song.
Like a musical. Writing with a deadline or at your own pace.
I generally have my own deadline.
Okay.
But I also know there are times, like, obviously my deadline of October didn't end up happening because I also have to realize that life is crazy and I have to make sure I don't kill myself. But I do try to stick to my own deadlines that I make myself, but I do try to make them achievable and not like crunch time, baby.
Yeah. No, I always say life is lifing.
Life is lifing. That's a very apt description. And so I do have a schedule, and I have kept fairly well to my schedule. And if I don't stick to my schedule, I usually have already set up leeway for myself in case something does happen. Like, I already have leeway for my pregnancy with my whole schedule that's been going on as well.
Nice. Give yourself grace. Series or standalone?
I do mostly standalone. My Fan Society was my first series. I tend to more have one story idea and complete it. So we'll see how the Fan Society goes.
Well, that one's a series. That you said the
That one's a
sci-fi may
series.
end up being a
But a
series
lot
also.
of my story ideas were solo books, or at least my first story ideas were a lot of, and the Fan Society was originally going to be a standalone book.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I would.
I think you're a series writer, and
I may be a series writer now, but I do standalones. I'm not against either of them. Series is just a lot more.
Oh
yeah. It's just more in general. That makes things a little bit difficult. But yeah, so I'm either or. I'm not a really picky person.
Well, this one is all not a picky person. Historical setting, present day, or future. And you're like, I'm all of them.
All of them, I don't care. I read everything. It's whatever catches my interest. Like this one, I'm like, yeah, I'll do this one. I love fantasy. I love sci-fi. I'll do this one. I like, cheesy romances. I love action. I love fantasy. I mean, who doesn't want a little magic in their life?
Of course.
Depends on whatever my mood is.
Well, Dasha, it's been a wonderful hour getting to know you. You are so sweet. I love your personality. You're very, very creative. And so I cannot wait to talk to you again in 2024. And it's our Thrive year.
Thank you. It's been wonderful speaking to you.
Thank you. And
It's been so much fun.
The DMs.
Do I what?
I'll catch you in the DMs.
Yes, I would be happy to speak to you at any time. I'm a mom. I do need adult conversation.
And not singing the ABCs all the time.
I'm singing the ABCs all the time.
Although Paw Patrol does rule, okay?
Paw Patrol is pretty cool.
Yeah,
Paw Patrol is pretty cool.
We happened to see that Mickey Mouse Clubhouse the other day. Me and my daughter, she's 17. She's like, they changed the song. This is not the song. This is not the hot dog song. And I'm like, honey, it's been a decade or something. Like, I think they can change the song. But she's like,
they've changed things a lot with
the set. They changed the song. She's like, this show is dead to me now.
This is dead to me. Actually,
changed the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse
because
song.
I was in choir, when we didn't have like songs that we were supposed to sing, we had a Disney melody and it had Disney Clubhouse as part of the melody. So
yep. So cute. Well, anyway, you have a wonderful rest of your pregnancy, and you all guys have a happy holiday season.
Thank you, and you as well. I wish you the best of luck with everything.
Thank you. Talk to you later, Dasha.
Later. Bye.
Bye.